Richard Glasgow, Lakeland, Minnesota.
Richard, I want to thank you so much for being with us today, and thank you for everything you've already shared in our bigger group. And I wanted to ask if you could tell everyone, when did you serve in the United States military? What was your rank?
Okay. I graduated high school, and my mother said, after I graduated, the next day, she says, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "I think I'd like to join the Air Force." 7 o'clock the next morning, she woke me up. I was down at the, I was raising my right hand.
She wasn't
that same morning. I joined in '63, and
so you weren't drafted. You volunteered.
I volunteered right out of high school. I joined in '63 and served until 1967. I spent
now,
a year.
Did you, when you joined, did you have to join for 4 years? Is that how it worked? Okay.
The Air Force was a 4-year enlistment.
You know, when you're 18, 4 years seems like forever, and you were happy to do it.
I was just, until I reached basic training. Then I was questioning, why did I do this? But yes, it was an experience of my life, something I'll never forget.
And where did you serve?
I spent a year in Texas training, and then I went straight right over to Tokyo, Japan, and I served 3 years in Tokyo.
And what did you do when you were in Tokyo?
I was in the intelligence field.
Yes.
We flew C-130s out every morning, loaded with radio gear, down the coast of China, up the coast of Russia, and also through Korea. And I was one of the analysts that would take all the data they received, and I would transmit that to Washington, D.C.
To headquarters.
Yep.
Well, that's a very important function. I think now with this recent capture of bin Laden, it was intelligence that helped us together with the special forces to be able to capture bin Laden. And intelligence has been around since Harry Truman.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a very interesting field. I had the highest clearance you could get in the military, in the government, a top secret comment, and I would sit back in the comm center, and you probably don't remember it, but we used to type our messages on a teletype, and it would come out in about a 3/4 inch yellow ribbon. And that was all the data with holes punched in it, and we'd give it to the comm guy, and he would send it off. So everybody that would give him reports, they would just give him the typed up report. I would go back and actually type mine up for him, and mine would go out first.
Yeah.
So I learned the system real quick.
And what a difference between all that you did then versus now with the internet and things that we can see instantaneously.
Yes.
What would you, after all of those years of service and all the changes that there's been in the military, something hasn't changed, and that's your love and appreciation for our servicemen and women. Why do you have such love and regard?
You know, I served, and I was so proud to wear that uniform. I just wish it still fit. But I was at a seminar for the Yellow Ribbon Network in Washington County where Chaplain Morris was giving it. And an Air Force sergeant, a lady, stood up and said, "To this day, when people thank me for my service, I get this feeling that I just can't describe to you, but it's such a wonderful feeling." The very next day, I went out to coffee with Senator Brian LeClaire, and I said, "Brian, what can we do?" And we came up with a business card, and that's what started Dear American Hero. I printed 500 of those business cards, and Bayport Printing says, "Okay, no problem." And I call them the next day, "No, make it 1,000, make it 1,500." And it finally ended up to be 3,000 cards. And I got those printed, and they were going over so well that I sent 2 cards down to Texas to Ross Perot and for his son. And 3 days later, the phone rings and woke me up in the morning, and here was Ross Perot.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
And he said, "You know, Richard, I love these cards." And he says, "I'd like to help you out, get started. Can you use 1 million of them?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I can." I said, "There's 27 million vets alive today, and 3 million men and women in uniform. 1 million's a good start, but it's not going to be enough." But he says, "Well, have your printer call me, and I'll pay for 1 million cards."
What a beautiful story from your heart.
Yep.
And then God supplied the person to give the resources, and now you're giving out the thanks and appreciation.
And we're up to 4.5 million now.
4.5 million.
And I probably send them out every day. I spend between 4 and 6 hours a day just sending cards out to all over the United States. And Michelle, the stories, I know you have a veteran's heart, so the stories that I receive, it tears me up every day when I get emails from a mother that says, your little card, I'm an Army wife, your cards have changed my and my children's lives. And now we're giving them out to other soldiers. And she says, my husband has yet to receive one, but I'm waiting for that day.
Oh, you have the heart of a saint, and it's wonderful. You've literally seen a miracle, haven't you? You've just seen a miracle, and miracles in people's lives. Yeah,
I tell people constantly, when you touch somebody's heart, yours gets touched right back. Yeah. And it's happened to me so many times, and I've enabled so many people to go up to a soldier or a family member and say thank you with a simple card. Yeah. I had a woman that said, I was too embarrassed to do it. I wanted to thank these people, but I was too embarrassed. So I finally got my chance. I seen a soldier in uniform in a parking lot. I ran up to him and handed him the card, and I started crying so hard I ran back to my car and drove off. But it opens a dialogue, and a lot of the Vietnam vets talk to me, and I start to hear their stories. Sure. They start to feel like, they finally come home. People appreciate them.
That's right.
So
you've done a wonderful thing, and not just for people here, but for all around the country and all around the world.
Yep.
Thank you on behalf of the people of the 6th District. You're a wonderful American patriot.
Can I tell you a quick Marine story? You know how tough Marines are?
Yeah.
A good friend of mine, Secret Service, and he was in Tanzania with President Bush, and he says, that night at the hotel, there's a Humvee with a 50 caliber machine gun with a Marine in it, dressed blues. Just spectacular. Just swinging that turret back and forth. I walked up to the door, and he says, 2 of the biggest Marines I've ever seen in my life were standing at the door at attention. And I walked out and out the door, and I went over to him, showed him my identification, handed them each a card, and said, my family just would like to thank you for what you're doing for America. The Marines both read it like this. They put it in their blouse, went back to attention. He walked in and put his head back out the door. Both of them had tears dripping down their cheeks under their uniform.
Oh.
I mean,
that's the power. Yeah. That's the power of gratefulness.
Of going up to a stranger and just saying thank you.
Yeah.
We just don't do that enough anymore.
Yeah. And isn't it amazing? That's worth more than money can buy.
Yep.
Wow. Well, thank you. We're so grateful. Thank you for telling us that story.